As you continue to grow, what are some other ambitions for some new startups, some new companies? What do you got in the brain? I can see there's probably some things that are turning.
Yeah, man, you never know. But one thing that we've been doing it's been almost 2 years now, is developing an app. And this is used for my clients, for my online training business and my in-person clients, where they do their check-ins. They have access to their nutrition information. There's a self-meal planning tool where they can put in like how many meals they want. And then based off of what their macros are set by their coach, it spits out a meal plan. So we're slowly adding to this app, but the goal with it is that we'll sell it to other trainers once it's done.
Okay. All right. Today, my guest, Anna Kate, started up Anna Kate Fitness by accident in 2015. She initially wanted to go to school for elementary education, wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, and had a passion for teaching. As she completed her internship for childhood education, she realized this isn't the type of industry with such a low ceiling as where she wanted to be. At the time, she was just doing personal training part-time, but quickly filled up to become a full-time personal trainer. In 2017, she introduced online training to Anna Kate Fitness, and from there, it has grown over to a team of 5 coaches and over 150 clients at all times. Anna Kate has been a certified personal trainer through ACE-NASM since March of 2015, and a certified nutritionist through PN1 since 2017. Her passion is helping people add value to their lives by improving their health, losing weight, and gaining strength and confidence. With both in-person and online training options, she wants to help women and families live their best lives. Anna Kate is a national level bikini competitor and loves living an active lifestyle full of lifting, hiking, all kinds of sports, and traveling. My guest today, Anna Kate. How are you doing today, Anna?
I'm good. A little tired from the Super Bowl.
Yeah?
Going into overtime last night.
You know what? It was worth it.
It
was
was
so worth it. Watching that game last night, especially the first half with 10-0, if they said a statistic last night, any team that's been skunked in the first half, like zeroed out, has never come back to win. And for them to get that 3 points last night right before, I think was so big.
Yeah.
Oh,
it just happened so fast. I was like, whoa, okay, now we're done. Now let's celebrate, I guess.
Yeah. I am them being back to back, going for a third, three-peat next year. I don't think anyone. No, I don't even think the Pats have done that.
I don't know that much about football.
All right, so just a fan of the
just
hometown.
the Chiefs, yeah.
Just the Chiefs. Awesome. I love that. I want to start off with this. You wanted to be a kindergarten teacher at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a tough job. What was the inspiration coming from to do that?
I have always loved teaching, and I know that I have a natural talent for it. And I love kids. I used to be a full-time babysitter and nanny for a lot of families. So I have watched kids all ages, from like when the time they were, in diapers to, you're too old to actually have a babysitter anymore. And I really liked that age, that 5-6 year old age, because they're so eager to learn things, and they are just still so innocent and really look up to their teachers.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really looked up to my kindergarten teacher, Miss Brock.
You remember Miss Brock?
Yeah, she still follows me on Facebook. She still likes all my stuff. She actually did some training with me in 2016 when I did personal training. Yeah.
Oh, what was it about Miss Brock that has left that impression? Because I mean, being a kindergartner 5 to 6, it's like I have difficulty recalling memories from back then. So for someone to leave that much of an impression on you had to have been a big part of your life.
Yeah, I remember quite a bit. And my mom was always with her old video camera recording things too, so that helps to like look back on those things. But I remember going to school just crying. I did not want my mom to leave. And Miss Brock was always very comforting for me and made me feel very special when I would cry and my mom would leave. So we kind of got into a routine every time. My mom would like drop me off, and then she would start dropping me off like further and further away from the door, and Miss Brock would just take over with whatever our routine was. I don't really remember, but I remember nap time and like folding our towels up and laying on our towels, and her reading, I don't remember what, maybe Magic School Bus or one of the Magic Treehouse books. Do you remember those?
Kinda.
Yeah. I remember those
degree.
books. And she would have us rotate. Now probably not allowed to do this, but she would have us rotate and like massage her neck while she was reading.
Yeah, I don't know if you could get away with that one right now. I don't know.
But it was obviously very innocent, and I loved doing that. Like I thought that was really cool because she was always very appreciative of all of us.
That's amazing. That's so kind of throughout your intro, I talk in there how you realize the ceiling is very low in the education space,
Hmm.
and it truly is. I really feel like teachers get the short stick of everything. What was it that you noticed pattern wise that like you're like, you know what, I do enjoy the teaching aspect of it, but I just can't make that sacrifice. Why did you want that higher ceiling?
And I did my internship in the public school system, so it could be different elsewhere. But when I was talking with all of the teachers, they all said the same thing. Like if they want to teach something a different way or different curriculum, or they need to stay on one section for a little bit longer because everyone's struggling with it, they're not allowed to. They have to just follow the curriculum from like via the book. So that limited their creativity as well. And it's just a stressful job. And I did my internship back in like 2015, 16, but I know right soon after in 2020, things got really stressful in the schools.
My son started kindergarten in 2020, and it unfortunately was through Zoom and on tablets.
Hmm.
He's very good with that stuff, him being his generation and stuff like that, which is great. But to like watching him try to sit there for like 6, 7 hours to try to learn,
Mm.
it was rough. They got the short end of the stick really bad. Like it was really
Hmm.
bad. And as he's grown, being in fourth grade now, so much catch ups had to be done. Like we do so much reading at night just because of the like all of these kids have fallen behind since 2020, just because they just haven't had the ability to teach them correctly. They
Yeah.
didn't get that full experience, and you see it socially too. It's weird. It's very awkward.
Hmm.
Oof.
Definitely.
Was the transition between like teaching students and then physical training for adults? How was that, or was it pretty similar since they're both about the same in
Adults
attitude?
are kids for sure. You have to be patient. With adults, it's obviously less of the go, go, go. I need to keep you busy at all times. With kids, it's kind of like, okay, if you're going from one activity, you got to get to the next one or else they're going to get bored and start acting out. For adults, I don't have to worry about that too much. But in the gym, it was a very helpful exercise for me because I do keep them moving in the gym. But it's just the behavior problems I don't need to worry about. But with adults, it's being patient and a lot of psychology because especially with what I do with nutrition coaching and
Mm.
workouts, I get a lot of the times like, oh, I just suck at discipline or I have no willpower or no motivation. And that's not the problem at all. Like that's what they think and that's what they say out loud. But there's so much underlying deepness to that. Like, okay, why do you, when you say that you don't want to eat something because you know it's not on your diet plan, or you say that you want to do, like, go to your workout or do something and then you just don't do it, there's always an underlying reason to why.
Right.
So figuring that out for each individual is really fun for me, and really getting to know them helps me coach them better. So it's still like with kids, you got to get to know your kids, and once you know your kids, then you can be a better teacher for them.
So was the transition like between going from education to the physical training, was that like difficult like in the turning point when you made the decision, or because you were working part-time then, and was it just a natural flow of things for people to keep scheduling you more and more, and you just said, you know what, this is the time I'm going to make that jump? Or when was that decision made to go from education to training like that?
In school, it was easy for college. Like I just kind of transferred to business administration. But with the job side of things, I was still babysitting at the time and still nannying for my families and still trying to do personal training. And it wasn't until I was kind of forced out of babysitting and nannying because people wanted to book like right after school, and that's when people wanted to work out. And so I had to make the decision that I couldn't babysit anymore because of that. So once I realized like I really couldn't babysit anymore, that income is gone, then I just like went all in on training and
Have
really
to.
started marketing myself. Hmm.
Interesting. And this was 2016, 2017?
2015, I started personal
2015.
training. So somewhere in there, yeah, the
Yeah.
transition happened.
How hard was it for you to market yourself back then?
It was hard in the beginning. I remember struggling to get my first client
I
because you have
know how it feels.
no backup, you have no stories to share or client testimonies or anything. But times were also different in 2015. The online space was not this crazy. I don't think I used Instagram at least as much. Maybe I had it, but I didn't use it as much. So it was all just word of mouth
Mm.
or marketing around town, going to the golf tournaments, having flyers, things like that. So it's a lot different now. I feel it's a lot easier because Facebook and Instagram I'm on all the time for marketing, and it's free and it's easy.
Mhm.
And you can reach a lot of people in a short amount of time. So, but once I got that very first client, then it felt like it started really kind of moving
That
fast.
snowball effect,
Mhm.
the one, you go so long trying to get your first client in something, whatever it may be, fitness training, marketing, whatever, and you work your ass off to get that first person. Then like the time between your first yes and your second yes is so much shorter than that first one.
Mhm.
And it feels good too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You start to see that progression and you're like, oh, all right, I can breathe a little bit. But now, as you're starting to do that, what were some of the challenges that you started to learn about business ownership as you started to scale and get busier?
I was really young when I started. I was 18. And so for my first client
Damn, really?
Mhm.
18?
Yeah. I graduated high school early and I started my training certifications when I was 17. And then once I was certified, and I think it was March, so like 4 or 5 months after my 18th birthday is when got my first client. But until then, I was like marketing myself and trying to get that first client. It probably took about 4 or 5 months to get that first client after just marketing and being in the gym and sitting at the front desk for hours and just waiting for someone to come in. Um, what was the question?
Nothing. Just that kind of just going on about that, really.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
picking on that thread. I'm curious,
Oh, the business
just
side.
the business side of things. It's so difficult. And you start to learn, like, scaling, what's it start to take to make $1 million with this particular business.
Yeah.
You start asking different questions. And you're like, all right, well, it's just the fascinating story of how people get that information and what they do with it and when. I
Hmm.
like that story a lot.
Yeah, that story is cool because it also was like you said, on accident for me. I just got to the point where I was so busy and I kept raising my rates, and people kept coming. So I had to really problem solve and think outside of the box. And this is where I think it's important to have mentors, whether it's like one or two set people or just people that you look up to and you can ask questions to. So I had friends in the online training space. So I
Okay.
asked them how they got started with that. And then when it got to the point where I was too busy with online training and in-person training, I was like, I'm working 12-hour days and still not making, I mean, I was probably making 50,000 a year. So at 18, 19, that's not bad. But,
And in Wichita,
and
Kansas.
in Wichita, Kansas. But when you look up like the annual salary of a personal trainer, it's like 30, 40K a year. And I didn't want to be stuck or limited to that because that goes back to the low ceiling thing
Right.
with the elementary education. And so my friends who were doing online coaching, they started subcontracting out other coaches, other personal trainers, nutritionists, dietitians. And so my thought process behind it was I want a team of people who can also take their own clients, but I want them to have their own specialty because
Mhm.
not everyone is going to be as similar as me, but I want to really hone in on their specialties. So I first hired a dietitian, and she is way more qualified in nutrition than just a nutritionist would be. A nutritionist is just like an online certificate that you can do. You're certified to then help people and guide people with nutrition coaching. A dietitian goes through a whole master's program in college. So she works in the hospital setting
Oh, wow.
in New York City to be a dietitian. So there's a lot more people that have PCOS, endometriosis, things like that, where they need specific help with their diet, or
Mhm.
diabetic. Then I send them her way, and she has her specialty and how she helps them. Also, eating disorders, very important to have that proper guidance, because if you're just a nutritionist or a trainer and you really don't know what you're doing, you can mess someone up a lot if you're in that territory of the eating disorder and the
Right.
mental health. So
Is there do you see a lot of that? I guess that's something I've never really thought about in the fitness industry is eating disorders.
mhm, a lot. It's a big scale. Like
Okay.
a lot of the people that come to me, it's like very on the minor side of they're a woman in their 40s who grew up thinking food was bad. So it's just like switching this mindset around, but they're still making unhealthy habits of they'll restrict, and then eat a bunch of food and then like try to starve themselves the next day. This is very common.
Right.
So the dietitian that works for me was actually in town this past weekend, and we were talking about this, about how restriction leads to binging and how this is a big problem. So that's like my type of clientele that I deal with. It's
Hmm.
like that end of the spectrum. She may be dealing with people that are throwing up or starving themselves for days, or the much more intense side of it. But both sides, they both have this hang up in their mind about food, and food is bad, or they don't like the way that they look, or they can't see themselves in the mirror the way that other people do. So it's a lot of mindset and mental health coaching as well.
What have you like? How is that? How have you broken those barriers with those people? Because that's not an easy thing to do. You
Mm-hmm.
have to obviously there's a lot of trust built with your personal trainer. Anyone that's coaching you, there's usually some sort of huge trust commitment in there. What are some of the things that you've had to learn to overcome those boundaries to get those to shed away to help them?
Hmm. Most people are pretty responsive to it, and I know how to talk with them about it. It's just like, hey, these are things that you learned when you were growing up your whole life. It's not your fault. This is what you were taught by society or your parents or whatever. So it's changing those habits and that mindset and reframing it. And then there are people where I'm like, okay, you really do need more professional guidance. I recommend go seeing a therapist to talk about this in conjunction to working with me. Like, tell me what your therapist is saying about XYZ. I'll work together with you and your therapist, and maybe the dietitian as well. But some people, there was maybe only one, maybe two in my whole like 9-year career that whenever I brought up therapy, it was like, I'm not doing that. I don't need that. What are you talking about? But
Male or female?
Females.
Oh, interesting. I
Yeah.
figured it'd have been on the guy side of things.
No, I feel I don't train a ton of men, and they don't have at least as verbalized of the same issues that the women do in that aspect.
Interesting.
I don't think men grew up with that same type of mindset of like food is bad, you need to starve yourself to
Eat
look
all of
thin. It's a little bit different. But I'm sure men still struggle with it. And men that I have talked to about therapy have said like, yeah, it's probably a good idea, but maybe they don't actually act on it.
That's actually a huge topic that a lot of people have been talking over the last couple of years. Men reaching out, getting help, men being in dark places by themselves when they don't need to be.
Mhm.
And a lot of like I'm a victim of that myself at some point in time. Bless you.
Ooh, thank you.
You only get one.
Okay, that's all I do.
That's it. No, and talking about like men needing to go seek out help, I'm very happy that those conversations are happening now. It's a good thing because growing up, you pussy, why are you talking about your feelings or anything like
Mhm.
that? It's like you're being a wuss, whatever.
Yeah.
What is ACENASM? What is that now?
Those are the certifications that I got online. ACE stands for, oh gosh, I don't even remember.
Uh-oh.
Academic, nope. I don't know what ACE is. NASM is National Academic Science of Medicine, maybe, I believe.
Seems about right.
I don't know. Either way, there are online certifications that you can get, and NASM's a pretty accredited one. So is ACE. Everyone pretty much knows those two.
Right.
And then PN1 is Precision Nutrition.
Okay.
Level 1, there's like level 2, 3. So
Which one of those were like the most difficult to obtain?
probably the PN1 because it's a little bit more specialized and specific to nutrition and the science of nutrition. The ACE was definitely the easiest one, and then NASM. There are some harder ones.
Right.
ISSA and NCSS or CSCS is a pretty challenging one. But when it comes to the certifications about it, I don't feel it matters really at this point. As long as you have some sort of certification, you have your liability insurance, you have the credibility for it. Like no one really cares anymore at this point what certification you have, as long as you have one.
As long as you have one. And I
Yeah.
think that's, you do need to be educated in something that you know that you're about to teach or
Yeah.
train.
Definitely.
May not be a master. So what are the master levels of that then? Like there's got to be that top dog, hard to get, like in title in your industry. Is there one?
I mean, honestly, I would say probably dietitian because you have to go through college. You have to get a master's in college and your internship, and it's kind of like nursing school for nutrition.
Man, good Lord.
Yeah.
You are definitely an entrepreneur. That's so I found a few businesses that you have under your belt. You have Anna-Kate Fitness, Anna-Kate Fitness Apparel, Colony here. What other cookie jars you got your hands into?
Anna-Kate Fitness Retreats.
Ooh, what's that?
That's been a fun one. So it started also kind of by accident. I bought a place in Mexico.
Funny how that happens, isn't it? It's just like, this happened, and what can I do with it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's like, "What's your 5-year plan? Your 10-year plan?" I'm like, "Wherever the wind blows me, whatever happens." But fitness will always be part of my life and my career for sure.
Absolutely.
So I love travel. I love fitness. I love bringing people together. I love hosting. I love leading. And I bought a place in Mexico in 2021 and rented out on Airbnb. So I get down to Mexico often to visit and travel and explore and experience. And everything that I was doing down there, I was like, everyone else needs to experience this. They need to see this. So I started putting together retreats where I take up to 15 people down to Mexico. I've done 2 big ones in Mexico so far, and then a team one in Mexico. And then I'll have a couple Arizona ones coming up this year and more Mexico ones. And next year, who knows what locations we'll have. I would like to have at least 2 new locations for it. but I put together a full itinerary. It's like they just pay a lump sum price and then everything's included minus a few meals and their flight.
Right.
And I pick them up at the airport in a van. Like I'm doing the driving all
You're
around
you're
Mexico.
you're leading them. You're the one. I'm
Yep.
in charge. Come on, let's go, group.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Finding the lodging for us, all the activities and all the logistics for it has been really eye-opening and fun and
That
awesome
learning
experiences for me too.
So much fun. All right. So what's the order of these all coming down the path?
Personal training first,
Right.
in-person training, and then the online coaching is what came next. And then I guess after that would be, I suppose, the colony and the retreats. And this is a co-working space here that I just partnered up with my business partner to help open this facility.
Mhm.
And then after that, the apparel. And the apparel is not something that I think I want to keep long term. I just do pre-orders a couple times per year for it, but fitness clothes. But it's a lot more work than I had anticipated for sure
Right.
for the clothing.
Just the getting the clothing on a regular basis, especially with certain trade routes being difficult nowadays and over the last like 4 years. I started out in drop shipping a couple years ago, and I did really well until I got redlined off of Amazon for growing too quickly. I sold some pretty fast, and you look through those sources of like Alibaba and all these other different third-party sites like that, and you start to realize like lead times. You start to learn a whole bunch of stuff on product. You
Oh,
start
yeah.
to really like, so interesting. Why don't you want to continue that full time?
It's not something I'm passionate about. I think
There-
everything else,
there we go.
I have a passion. It's an interest. This is like, okay, I have to deal with suppliers that are across the world, and it's hard to deal with that and the shipping and the time. And like you said, all these things, I don't really care for that. But I know I only started it because people wanted apparel. They wanted workout shirts and things like that. So I think it's good to have some of it, but I'm not sure it's something that I would want to keep up unless I hire it out someday.
That's what I was going to say. Manager, there you go. Make this and just bring me the designs. Let me like them.
Yep.
Have at it. No, that's really cool. As you continue to grow, what are some other ambitions for some new startups, some new companies? What do you got in the brain? I can see there's probably some things that are churning.
Yeah, man, you never know. But one thing that we've been doing the past, it's been almost 2 years now, is developing an app. And this is used for my clients, for my online training business and my in-person clients, where they do their check-ins. They have access to their nutrition information. There's a self meal planning tool where they can put in like how many meals they want. And then based off of what their macros are set by their coach, it spits out a meal plan. So we're slowly adding to this app, but the goal with it is that we'll sell it to other trainers once it's done. So if you're familiar with like the app Trainerize or anything like that, where a coach pays a monthly fee depending on how many clients they have in the app, how many profiles are in the app, and then they just run it how they want to run it. They can charge people however much, however they want to charge. They can do that. That's all like on them. Their own programming, everything. I just provide the platform. So the platform that I've been trying to create with my app developer, who's a genius, I tell him, I'm like, can we do this? He's like, yeah, we can literally do anything. Just tell me what you want and I'll make it happen in the app. So I'm really like able to get my brain searching, and all the apps that I've used over the years, and other online coaches struggle with the same thing of having to use like 3 different apps. You have like a nutrition app, you have a workout app, you have MyFitnessPal where people track their food. I want it all in one. I don't even want people to have to download MyFitnessPal. Like I want it in one app. So I already know that this is a problem in the industry, and I think I can market it well enough, at least to get it to the level that I want it to be for what it is, and to problem solve. I think that's the biggest thing with business is you find a problem, and if you have a problem solving brain, solve the problem, and then business will come.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be a fun one. Hopefully by next year, start introducing coaches to it.
Okay, I like that. So how much time have you been putting into that currently, and are you already in progress working on it?
We're 2 years in, so it's been usable for my clients.
Okay.
They can use it for check-ins. So they put in, like I have templates where people answer all their questions, their pictures, their measurements, all of that. It has a dashboard for all their macros. It has charts to tell them where their measurements has gone, their body weight, so they can see like, are they trending down the way that they want or not? And then the self-planning meal plan feature, which is connected to the API of AI, so artificial intelligence. And we're just basically pulling different APIs to be able to make everything happen in there. But the meal planning part is new, and it's very cool, very helpful, because there is not also a meal planning app out there other than just like artificial intelligence, like the app or something, where you can say, I want this amount of meals, these macros, and then like give me a very basic meal plan, but something that would still be delicious and yummy and things. So the way that he has done it, I don't know how he did it, but it looks perfect. It's exactly how I imagined.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Hmm.
Utilizing technology, is that one of the bigger ways? Because it sounded like what you just told me. A lot of that is accountability for your clients,
Hmm.
right? And I'm assuming that that's a huge part of just the fitness journey is keeping your clients accountable, keeping themselves accountable, and having that resource is so big. Have you seen an impact of them doing better on their journey, having that accountability?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, if you want to lose weight, you need some sort of nutrition plan. You need to be following the nutrition portion of it. And I didn't want to just send an email with, like, here's what to eat or whatever. That's weird. So having it in an app where they can pull it up and they can see what they're supposed to be eating or what their meal plan is,
Yeah.
is super awesome. And then the check ins as well, because how it works with nutrition is your body responds differently depending on, are you actually following the plan or are you not? Like, if you're not, what's going on? What do we need to change? Do we need to make it more flexible, less flexible, whatever? But having them check in, then I can make adjustments. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say they're actually following their plan like really, really, really well for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and they haven't dropped any weight. Okay, now we need to adjust something. We need to take out some carbs here, add more movement, more cardio, more steps through the day, so I can actually analyze what's going on through their day. Each individual nutrition plan from the get-go, like if you were to tell me I want to gain 20 pounds, here's my stats, my weight, whatever, I'll give you a plan. It's always just my best estimated scientific guess. I don't know how your
Swag.
body, yeah. Swag.
Scientific wild ass guess.
Oh.
You're more than welcome to use that. I got a couple
It's
of
my
them.
best swag.
Swag.
Yeah.
Scientific wild ass guess.
So it's always your best swag, and then when they check in, then you see how their body adapts and responds, and then you can make changes accordingly.
That's awesome. Yeah, God, that's so smart too. I love that.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to hit every single angle of the fitness business pretty much.
So during your journey, you're going on, what did you say, 9 years now
Mhm.
as we continue? Was there a certain point, like where it all clicked? And like, Neo in the Matrix, you can see the numbers and see things connecting. When was that point in that you knew everything could just continue to grow?
Mm-hmm. Probably when I hired my first manager.
Ooh,
So I have
strong having a manager.
I have a billing manager, and I have two bookkeepers, and I have an accountant as well. And having the manager and the bookkeeper, she same position, and then I have a second bookkeeper as well. The manager and the bookkeeper is incredible because I felt I was wasting time. Obviously, it's not wasting because you need that for the business.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt I was using so many hours out of the week to do all the back end stuff, all of the website stuff, all the billing. Like, I hate doing billing. I hate asking people for money or getting auto payment set up. Everything's pretty much on auto pay now with my clients so that you don't have to chase people down. But having that has been huge because then I can actually focus on my job, and then she can do
Right.
all that other stuff.
Especially if you have 150 clients trying to chase down billing every
Yeah.
month. That's
Nope, auto pay.
no, that's super smart. No, that's all right. You don't know this yet, but you and I currently share a love for one particular thing on this planet: aviation.
Okay.
Yeah. With my own goals to acquire my own planes in the future, what are some advice you would give me as a rookie who's about to start his private pilot's license?
Get a medical first. Make sure
Okay.
that you can actually fly and be a pilot, and be smart with what you tell the FAA.
Let's go ahead and expand on that a little bit.
I don't know if you've seen any of the memes, but there's memes where it's like when the FAA finds out that you were sad 6 years ago and they're like chasing after you. They basically want pilots to be robotic, perfect humans.
Uh-oh.
So make sure your mental health is taken care of.
Fair.
If you've ever had depression, anxiety, anything in the past where you did take medication or you were even just diagnosed with it or anything like this, which I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 12.
Fair.
This has been a whole thing. I didn't even take medication for it. This has been a whole thing with the FAA. So if you took medication for any mental health disorder, there's a lot of hoops to jump through with that. So mental health, physical health as well. You have to make sure you're in pretty good shape to be a pilot. You don't have to be in perfect health, but there are hoops that you're going to have to jump through if you're not. So obviously people aren't robotic, perfect humans. So just knowing that there are going to always be lots of hoops to jump through, and that aviation, you can't, I'm such a planner, like a type A planner. You can't with aviation. There's weather. Okay, the plane's down for maintenance. Okay, someone else has to use the plane. Or weather. So it's like And with the private pilot, you
Other
can't.
faster planes making you get out of the way.
Yeah. With private pilot, you can't fly into the clouds. So if the cloud ceiling is too low, you can't fly. If it's too windy when you're first starting to fly, you can't fly.
Now that's IFR.
IFR.
So that stands for
Instrument Flying
come on.
Requirement.
Okay,
I
and
think.
that's when you can be seen without cloud coverage, right?
For private pilot for VFR, you just have to be like, I think it's 1,000 feet below the clouds.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't go through.
And that's
the clouds.
visual. Yeah, VFR is visual.
Mhm.
IFR is when you can go
Instrument.
up and do all that fun stuff.
Yep, and instrument's a whole other rating. So also expect to spend a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Each rating takes forever. So a private pilot could take, for me, it took 100 hours because I just do it on my own time and I have lots of other things going on and traveling. Every time I travel for 2 or 3 weeks at a time and then I come back home, it's kind of like you're starting over, at least in the beginning when you're first learning something.
Yeah.
So actually, probably my biggest piece of advice would be after you get your medical and you're cleared for all of that, when you start flying, do it 4 times a week, like as much as possible, back to back to back
that
in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it took me so long, because I was flying like once a week, once every other week, and that's not enough to retain anything from the last lesson.
Right.
It's a lot. And private pilot is the most broad, so it's very challenging in that way of you have to know aircraft systems, which before I did this, I knew nothing about engines and systems. Like a light comes on in my Jeep and I call my dad, like, Dad,
Right.
What is this light, So I had to learn all of that, which was also a challenge, but very important to know.
Yeah.
You have to know weather systems. You have to know the laws, the regulations. You have to memorize 100 different acronyms. You have to know what all the acronyms mean. You have to all this. So it's hard. It's really hard. I say, honestly, like it's probably the hardest thing that I've had to do. And I do a lot of hard things.
Right.
A lot of hard things.
That's so,
Yeah.
Okay. What is it? It being the hardest thing, is it just the time commitment that was the hard part and retaining the knowledge? What was it being the hardest thing?
Retaining the knowledge and just everything you have to
Right.
know and to remember, and all the steps of actually flying, like the actual stick and rudder skills. That part was still hard for me, but I think all the back end stuff, like the stick and rudder skills, actually flying is the easy part. Everything else is the hard part,
Right.
because you have to know all that in order to pass your test. And then you kind of like you have to know how to navigate on a paper map like this, and all the calculations for it. It's hard.
It is difficult.
Mhm.
That's why I'm so when I first moved here to Kansas, this would be 2011. My father and I moved to Wichita. He had his facility that he was working for up in Newton. Right next door was Heston's College Flight School. And he knew I've got to fly a helicopter once. That was cool. That was a lot of fun. And I've always been fascinated. We can get into that later. But planes, like I got to go on my first introduction to flight. So I got to do all the pre-check, walk around, do the whole takeoff and everything. I'm a gamer, and I've been playing games my entire life. So a lot of it was I've done that before, just virtually.
Yeah.
So a lot of it made sense. And it was the most freeing thing to do. You're up there, you can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can be anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Kind of.
Cars used to do it for me. Like I used to be a big car guy until I flew for the first time. And I was like, I want a series Vision Jet, the FX50. It's a crotch rocket to the sky. I want the DA62, which is the dual piston actions. I love it. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
What did you fly in?
Cessna 172.
Yeah, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Tried and true right there.
Yeah, they're probably the easiest trainers to learn in.
Right. What do you want to continue that passion?
Yeah, I do. I think I'll just have some fun with my private for a long time and then maybe eventually start my instrument.
Ooh.
I don't think I want to turn it into a job or for income or anything,
Right.
but I could change my mind down the road.
Never know.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Do you have a plane that you want?
I don't yet. I love the King Airs.
Okay.
But obviously, I want to be realistic with okay, if I do actually want to buy a plane someday, what plane would I actually get? I like the 172 and 182, but 172s are pretty slow. If winds are in your favor, it cuts your drive time in half, essentially.
Right.
But I would like something a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Put some speed behind you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much fun. Let's see here. We're coming up on 45 minutes. I think we could keep going, but I want to do a part 2, especially in this amazing studio that you're going to let me play in.
Mm-hmm.
Like every morning, you get up to get ready for the day. You go to leave your house. You open the door. you see 18-year-old Anna Kate standing right outside, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You don't get to tell her all the secrets, but you can give her some advice. What do you tell that young woman?
18. I had my stuff figured out a lot more than most 18-year-olds.
No joke.
But when I was 18, I would say stick to your trueness. Yeah. Don't do something you don't want to do. Don't do anything you don't want to do. Essentially, I think I was a yes girl back then.
Oh.
Most people maybe are, especially first thing into business, but people pleasing, things like that. So I've really learned over the past 4 or 5 years sticking to my trueness, and people respect it a lot better. I feel happy. I feel like I really, really, really love myself. Whereas back then, I didn't really know myself then either. And I was like, why do I feel unhappy? Because I'm people pleasing and not focusing on myself. My trueness. Yeah.
Damn, that's good. Thank you again, Anna Kate, for this conversation. Yeah. We'll have to do a part 2. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming by again. This is Networking with Nick, episode 6. This has been an amazing time. Next time you see this woman, we will be all set up here in the studio. But until then, thank you for coming by. Later.